Screen, it is 5 o'clock. We'd like to call the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. We will address and adopt the minutes at the end of this hearing. The first request we have to come before us today is from the Amores, Rick Amore. Do we have anyone here to speak in opposition of this request? Is there anyone here in favor other than the Amores?
Yeah,
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any questions? Mr. Moore, I read somewhere you were waiting for a second bid. Have you gotten that?
Yes, we have.
Will you tell us what that is? Or do you have a copy for us?
No, I just got it yesterday. I haven't gotten the written version yet.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
with the contractor.
go ahead.
And we're going with the second contractor.
Yes, we have the information for the first.
Yes, and it's the same structure. What happened was, although the first contractor had a license at one time, he had let that expire while he was doing other work and was getting back into doing home repairs and remodeling. But because he was not licensed, we found out that he couldn't do the work in the historic area.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he could do the work under a friend of his who was a contractor. However, that would add $5,000 to the price of the work. So we decided to get a second opinion and got a estimate that is below the first one, and that's who we're going with. It's the same structure, just a different contractor
Okay.
who is licensed.
Do we have any questions? Okay. But the second one is licensed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. If there are no questions from the commission, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we approve the request from Rick and Sharon Moore to add a screen and porch to their existing property. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Thank you. Okay, our second request comes from Christine Villarreal in regards to 200 North Columbia Street. And I think you're here. Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ian McMullen. I'm an attorney here in town at Waddell & Associates, and my address is 130 Lakeside Drive, Milledgeville. We have filed an application to the Historic Preservation Commission. I represent the Zeta Tau Alpha Housing Corporation, who is under contract to purchase the property at 200 North Columbia Street. That's what's known as the Antebellum Inn currently. This came before Planning and Zoning on June 1st and was approved there. What we are asking for and just for your information, it's called a fraternity, but it's actually a women's sorority. It's from historical standpoint, they use the term fraternity rather than sorority in their name. And the sorority is currently occupying the property directly across the street. So they're just moving, hopefully, their house from one side of the street to the other side of the street. As part of that, in compliance with the parking requirements that the city has, we need to put in parking spaces for 15 young women. Currently, the Antebellum Inn has a very relatively small concrete parking pad, probably would accommodate 3 to 4 cars at most, and there's a concrete pool that's adjacent to the concrete parking pad. Along with the pool, there is a small structure, and if you'll look at your handout, at the very back of the handout, you'll see what I don't know if you'd describe it as a pool house or a tool shed, but something in between that will need to be removed, and the pool would be filled in to make adequate parking for 15 off-street parking spaces. That's probably an increase of at least 12 or so parking spaces than there currently is down there. The changes that would need to be made to the property, if you'll notice in your handout, you see on the first page, it shows you an as-built survey done by J.E. Smith, which shows the current concrete parking pad, the pool, and the 16 by 20 frame storage building. On page 2, what you'll see is the proposed parking. It says asphalt, that's what J.E. wrote, but it's actually going to be a concrete parking pad. So not really much change, maybe a slight amount more of concrete than is currently there, but there's not a lot of change going on there. And if you will go over to page 3, you'll see what is called the illustrative site plan. I've got a big and you've got copies that you can see here, the proposed curb cut and parking lot that is proposed to be built. You'll see the pool house structure has been removed, and then you see the vegetative barriers that our landscape architect is designed to put in. And we have Gary Caraway here. He is the landscape architect. If any of you have questions from him, he can explain more on the historic nature of the shrubbery that's proposed to be put in once the parking pad is complete. If you'll move over to page 4 of the package, you'll see a plan, and what you see there is the proposed concrete parking spot, and the other item that we didn't know about at first, but we have sort of determined through Gary's help is the trees that will be removed. If you'll notice, there are 5 trees on the property currently that would have to be taken down to build the parking spot. The plan is to take those down and replace them with 6 younger trees, of course, but 6 other trees. So it'll be a net gain of 1 tree if you want to look at it that way. And then finally, just got this today, but if you'll look at, there's a separate handout that says perspective view. That's essentially what you will see when the assuming that the parking pad is built for the 15 spaces. What we're here asking is that the Historic Preservation Commission. And one other thing, I think it's important to note that we're not removing any historic structures. That tool shed is I don't know the age of it, but there's nothing historic about it. I would guess not older than the 1980s or so. We're not asking to remove any historic structures, and we have what I believe is an adequate plan to replace the foliage and with something that will probably look much better than what's there currently. And so with that, what we're asking is for the commission to approve the removal of the building and the removal of the 5 trees that will need to be removed in order to build the parking pad. I'm open to questions. If I can't answer it, I will defer to Gary.
Do you have information about the filling of the pool, I mean, what are you gonna do with that?
As far as, the pool will be filled in, as far, are you asking about the logistics of how that will occur, or?
Yeah, are you gonna concrete it in, or? I'm just concerned about the sturdiness.
Sure, sure. I don't have, I'll say this, Zeta
Have any
has,
specifications on that?
well, I do, Zeta has hired a general contractor to come in and look at it. That will, of course, be done to acceptable standards, so that, you know, obviously Zeta doesn't want the concrete parking pad to cave in either. So, I don't know, Garrett, do you talk to anybody about that, or?
No, we haven't addressed specifics on that yet, but there are a number of ways you can do that, and certainly they would fill it in lifts and compact it, you know, appropriately so that settling wasn't an issue down the road. And of course, they'd be putting, whether it was GAB or what have you, as under that profile of that new pavement that's going to be on top of that. So, but that's certainly something that can be done properly.
And the trees will be removed professionally, including the base and the roots,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
of that.
I think you'd have to, in order to get the paving done
Leave
correctly.
it smooth enough, yeah. Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell the commission?
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone here in opposition of this request? Are there questions from the commission?
No question.
Okay, if there are no questions, there's no opposition, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
This proposal be accepted.
Second.
Properly moved and second that the request be approved. Be ready for the question.
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, we had our minutes sent to us from our March 12th meeting. Are there any questions or corrections in regards to the minutes? Okay, if there are no questions, no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 12th, 2020.
Motion that minutes be approved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that the minutes of March 12th, 2020 be approved. Ready for the question.
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Thank you.
Thank y'all.